Thanks, Paul and Malcolm. I appreciate you asking us along tonight to introduce Goldstone Resources, which is obviously a company that we are extremely excited about. Just to tell you a little bit about Optiva Securities, we're a corporate broker, but we also manage money for private investors. And one of the sort of slightly unique things about Optiva is that when we raise money for our corporate clients, we do give our existing private clients access to placings, which is a slightly unique thing these days, where most corporate brokers give all their shares to institutions and the private clients have to buy the shares in the market. So we try and do things the other way around, and that's why I like Miningmaven and why we're here to supporting these guys as well as our client, because I think private investors need to get exposure to mining companies. They need to get good information, and if they can work with brokers and people like Miningmaven, then they've got a much better chance of making money in the market, which is what it's all about. Just big background information on Goldstone Resources. As probably you all know, this is a very exciting company. It's operating in West Africa, and West Africa is the fastest growing gold mining area in the world now. There's been some tremendous discoveries in that region over the last 10 years. You've got companies like Randgold that are now FTSE 100 companies, and they've built their business in West Africa. And one of the Senegal property that Goldstone have got is bang next door to one of Randgold's big new projects, the Massawa project. It's 3.4 million ounces and it's growing. Exactly the same geology. They got good results. They're going to start working that up. Who knows where that could be another multi-million ounce resource as well. I mean, the Birimian gold belt is probably similar to the Carlin Trend in Nevada in terms of the number of mining companies that are going to go there and build their business there. So we think this is it's a great opportunity to get into a company like Goldstone. They're in the right location. They've got great exploration ground. And yeah, I mean, on the numbers, we've published our research note. Jason, here, if you stand up, Jason. Jason wrote the note, so I won't go into too much detail on it. But we've only based our valuation on the 405,000 ounces measured, indicated, and inferred in Hamasi and Akrikeri. And you're looking. We've taken an analysis of all the mining companies in the sector, both in Canada, UK and Australia, and the valuation per ounce we're coming up with gives a market value for Goldstone of $70 million, which equates to 19p. That doesn't include anything that they're doing in Gabon, which I know they're very excited about. It doesn't include anything in Senegal, and it doesn't include any upside from the drilling program that they're just starting now in Ghana. So it's a good story, and we think there's a lot further to go on this.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you on behalf of Goldstone. I never thought I'd be doing my job in a British pub, but it certainly is different from where we used to be working in. A lot of people came from faraway places, David from Monaco, and there are some other shareholders from Manchester, etc. And thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. We appreciate support. A lot of the shareholders were with us and are still with us right from the beginning, and we really hope that we can build some more value and keep that share graph growing as the way it has been, fortunately for us, for the last 2 years. So, okay, right, we're going to, my good friend and colleague, Hendrik.
Maybe I just want to take over a few words there from Jurie. I can only sort of elaborate a little bit. It's very nice to see so many people here tonight, and we're really excited to share the news with you. We have a lot of slides, maybe too many for the time period, so we're going to try to pack a lot of information in very little time, and then we'll be available for questions. And maybe I should actually introduce you, Jurie. I've been working with Jurie for a few years, and I think we're not only good colleagues, we're also friends, and we have a lot of fun running the company. And Jurie is a lawyer by profession, and he comes with a long experience in the mining industry, and he has done some good deals for Goldstone.
We can go on with the slide there. Hendrik is likewise a good friend of mine. I appreciate him. He's got very good technical knowledge, hands-on guy, and has got 15 years experience in Africa, which makes a difference, believe me. Our non-executive chairman is Gennan McDowell, old friend of mine, 30 years experience in exploration specifically. And then we've got Tim Churcher, who's our nominee from one of our major shareholders, Unity Mining. And I'm sure we're going to talk about them much more later. And then on a management side, we've got also people that we trust and know, people that's worked with us before, worked with me before, Philip Leroux, who's the exploration manager, also very much hands-on experience in Africa for over 20 years. And then Eddie Orton, you know, logistics is a very difficult situation in Africa anywhere, and exploration very much depends on that. So Hendrik and I took over the helm, as to speak, in May 2009 at A. And then in April 2010, we announced a maiden resource at Omase of 280,000 ounces from historical drill data. In October 2010, which is signified by E, we acquired the Akrokeri permit. And F is when Optala, February this year, acquired an interest, and that's had a knock-on effect with what happened with Unity, which we'll talk about later. And then in June, we managed to increase our resource at Akrokeri, also again from historical drill data, to just over 400,000 ounces. Just on Unity in general, they've got at this stage, they've got 33.5% in the company. They would then have, after they've exercised their warrants, they would be at close to a 37% interest in Goldstone.
Maybe I'll pick up then there, and you see that the last item on the list refers to the I on the share graph, and it's not only about Unity Mining, it's also about the Akrokeri resource that we released quite recently. And if we go to the next slide, we want to see a little bit about the location. Where are we located with our permits in Africa? And we're looking at a map of southern Ghana. Here's Accra, the capital of Ghana. And in blue, we see our permit areas. So where are we? We in a gold belt. It's called the Ashanti Gold Belt, where 70 million ounces of gold were found in mining history. And we also close to the Obuasi mine of AngloGold Ashanti with 42 million ounces, a massive deposit. And I would say, in summary, that we in elephant country, gold elephant country. And maybe a few words about our neighbors.
You could look at Perseus's Ayanfuri project, that's right there. And Chirano, which belongs to Redback, Obotan PMI over there. And all these companies have got one thing in common with us, we hope, and that is that they started off with a small resource, approximately, some of them 40,000 ounces, others of them a bit more, and built them up to where they are today. Ayanfuri, Perseus has got about 5 million ounces, Chirano has 2.5 million ounces. And all of them started with buying out an open pit operation from a major and moving it on from there.
So we're zooming into Homasa Akrokeri, and maybe to lift out for you here is initially the red area. This is the combined resource area for 405,000 ounces. This accounts for about just under 4 kilometers of strike, and it's important to see that there is potential towards the south and towards the north to do more drilling in a geochemical soil anomaly or in a gold soil anomaly, and we hope to extend our resource along the strike line. We also have a number of other prospects in the permit area. For example, the Akrokeri prospect, which we'll talk about, very strong gold anomaly overlying a granite plug, very prospective. And we have several other anomalies up there. And we have weaker parallel trends that we may want to use to build the resource. And also what's important to see on this graph is that we're only 15 kilometers from the Obuasi mine site. You will see some pictures just now. In 2003, AngloGold Ashanti was the owner of this prospect and mined 40,000 ounces from an open pit and trucked it to their Obuasi plant and processed the ore at Obuasi. Yes.
If you just talking about ownership, although we deal with this area as a geological unit, We don't have the same ownership structure. The one is owned, Akrikeri is owned by Goldstone Akrikeri Limited, a Ghanaian subsidiary of ours, 95% owned by us. And Omase is a JV with Cherry Hill, where we own 51%. We expect within this drilling program to reach the further benchmark, which will take us to 65% interest in that project. Just also on this little map, what you see here is all these unpronounceable names here of pipes or pits being mined by AGA, and it just shows you that we're in a prolific gold belt, pretty close to us, other similar-sized, hopefully similar-sized deposits.
And this table, the first thing to notice here are the two pictures at the top. We talked about the mining by AngloGold Ashanti. This is in fact a picture in 2003 of the Homasa open pit when AngloGold Ashanti was mining it. And then on the left-hand side, this one is taken in 2009, the same location. This is what it looks like today. And we are presently having a drill rig situated here on this side of the pit, drilling inclined boreholes under this water-filled pit. And so that's some of the history. And then we have a table here that just summarizes some of the better gold intersects in the boreholes that were drilled by previous explorers. Just want to lift out the best ones for you. For example, that's 26 meters at 3 grams. And we got 6 meters at 20 grams, so some extraordinary intercepts. Of course, this is the best, is a best list out of all the boreholes. But what we really see is two types of intersects. We've got a wide, medium-grade intersect that lends itself for open pit mining, and we have a narrower, high-grade intersect that makes one want to speculate about maybe underground mining even.
This is just a table setting out the combined resource. And what's interesting is that the oxide portion of it, which is on surface and easily extractable, free dig, is 130,000 ounces, which would very easily kickstart any operation if we do get to critical mass.
There's a little bit of information here that we inherited from previous operators about the metallurgy. Metallurgy can be a challenge in this gold belt, where other companies experienced low recoveries. But in our case, the few samples that were analyzed by AngloGold Ashanti suggest that our recovery in the oxide zone is 93% and in the primary zone 84%. It's quite a remarkably high portion here in measured and indicated, which is the resource category that gives you a higher degree of confidence. But I think we can move on to the next slide. What we see here is a three-dimensional model of the pit, of the Homasa pit. So we see the pit itself in brown at the top. We see a number of maybe lines that you cannot see very easily, thin black lines, about 200, more than 200 of them, and that's the historical drilling at Homasa, on which we have built our resource. And then you see you see red symbols that indicate where gold was intersected, and you see not so many, a few, I think it's 10 or 11 yellow boreholes, and those are the boreholes that we want to drill over the next couple of weeks or next couple of months. And it will be interesting to see the results. What we hope to find is that we'll be able to use the results of these boreholes to extend the high-grade chutes under the open pit to larger depth, and by that way increase the resource and hopefully the grade of the resource, and also upgrade inferred ounces into measured and indicated ounces. And I don't want to spend much time on this slide at all. In fact, I'd leave it to you to read it. All it is instead of showing the grade of the ore block in color, we're now showing measured, indicated, and inferred blocks in different colors. So it gives you an idea where the measured and the inferred ounces are. Next slide, please.
This just shows you the potential that we have for deeper mineralized chutes. You'll see there's 11 meters at 6 grams a ton. This was, of course, mined by AngloGold Ashanti, 13 meters at 6 grams a ton. And the idea is to answer those question marks there and to see what's going with potential, for a potential deeper mining target.
Just want to add there that very difficult to see because of the white background. There's actually a grey line here, and that would be the approximated bottom of the pit. So everything above this line has been mined. This portion is mined out, whereas this portion is still in situ and would be available for mining. Okay, this is quite a complex and busy slide, but all I want to do is lift out two things for you. In fact, only one thing. The only thing I want to lift out, you note that there's a pink color here in this area, and that's a granite intrusion, right? It's a rock type, a granite. And then you see that within our permit area, this granite has got a lot of red dots on it. Each red dot is in fact a positive soil sample that contains high concentrations of gold, and which indicates that this granite is probably mineralized with gold. And then right next to it there is a yellow quartz vein. This quartz vein was mined underground by colonial miners from 1900 to 1930, and these guys pulled out 75,000 ounces at 24 grams. So we're looking at a mineralized system here consisting of a granite and a very high-grade quartz vein. And we want to do some mapping here, and we want to do trenching and hopefully shallow drilling. And this would be a very prospective piece of ground to add to our resource at a later stage.
And if I also had my way, I'd like to talk to AngloGold Ashanti about doing a JV over that rest of the plug there, of the granite plug. And hopefully we can achieve something like that.
This is a picture that was taken on the granite plug that I pointed out to you with my finger on the previous slide. And you see miners, local miners, that pull out, well, that mine gold to a depth of a maximum of 6 or 7 meters. And if you would see them in the field, you would notice that they're all aligned along a northwest trending line. And they follow a structure, a geological structure in the ground. And that fits very well with our geological model of the area. And we will do trenching and mapping to follow up on these structures, and hopefully then later drill them if we have positive results. So we're quite excited about this confirmation of the gold mineralization.
That photo was taken about there, and they are scratching the surface. They're not taking away all the gold that we would have mined. And they are pretty much part of the scenery all over Africa. You want them there because you see then where to go. They pretty much find the gold in many instances.
And this, to some extent, summarizes the Homasa Ekrikeri prospect. You will notice that I've got some squares here with numbers in them, and I want to talk about this square here, numbered 1. That's really where we will spend most of our money in the next couple of months on drilling activity, and we're hoping to build on obviously direct this along strike and down dip of the existing resource, building our resource. Area number 2 is a complicated region structurally, and we lost the mineralization, but we want to do some further work here to maybe pick it up again, and then and hopefully generate some drill targets like this. Area number 3 we have discussed in much detail now. It's the granite plug I'm not going to talk about. And then we have a parallel trend here, Ado Brim, that was previously mentioned in press releases. We're going to do some soil sampling there, trenching, and hopefully drilling.
Yeah, so this pretty much shows what kind of news flow we hope to bring out in the next year or two. There's quite a lot that will come from there, as Hendrik has just explained to you. Now, this is the A-team. They call themselves the A-team. That's Eddie, who's the logistical manager. It's Patrick Gyamfi, who's our geologist in Ghana. And that's Philip Leroux. And this is the first drill hole that's being drilled, we're pleased to say. The circle here shows, well, firstly, that we're in Manso Menfi now. So it's 120 kilometers away from Homase. Homase is along that structure there. There's Ayanfuri. What we have here is the circle shows the trucking distance that could economically work. And the reason why we're doing that is, I want to point out to you Bogoso. Bogoso is Golden Star's 3.3 million ounce mine, but more importantly, Pampe, right there, belongs to them too, and they truck the ore from Pampe through to Bogoso economically. Now, we obviously don't want to find 200,000 ounce prospects. We want to find more than that. But if we're unlucky, then we could commercialize it by selling it off onto Bogoso. And this is a common event in Ghana. People do tend to mine pits around the area in the shadows of headgear, and then transport the ore to the processing plants. Other than that, all of you pretty much know what the story is here. It's at a conjecture or a interconnection of two structures. And but I'm actually venturing into his area now. Rather say something a bit more about the ownership structure here. It's also a JV. We're currently at 10%. We will be earning 25% after we spend $500,000, and then move up into 55% by either achieving a resource of any magnitude or spending $800,000.
It's important, as Jurie mentioned, there are two major structures trending in different directions which are intersecting right here, and that makes this area quite prospective for gold. There are other people that explored the area previously, and these are gold and soil anomalies that were found previously by other explorers, and and that sort of sums it up. There's also a lot of artisanal mining activity. But if we go to the next slide, that's demonstrating the work that Goldstone has done there this year and last year, late last year and early this year. And we have covered the entire permit area with soil samples. We took 2,200 soil samples, a spacing of 400 by 100 meters. And we have results. We already have results for this part of the permit area, but we don't have the results for this part of the permit area yet. What we see is a picture is evolving here. We seem to be dealing with long soil anomalies, elongated long soil anomalies that seem to be trending parallel to the major structure. And that really points towards a model where we have smaller parallel structures that are also mineralized and have mineralized the rock and eventually also the soil samples that we took. That's a very exciting result. And in fact, we have a little problem here that's quite nice, a nice problem to have. We have too many soil anomalies to effectively follow up immediately, so we have to prioritize them for ground follow-up. And what we will do is we will do certain geophysical studies to correlate them with structures, and we will analyze for other elements, not only for gold but for other elements, and and that will give us a way of prioritizing these anomalies. And once we have done this, we'll go back to the ground and start trenching and hopefully drilling. And then we have a as I say, this area hasn't been, we don't have the results, but the geologist that did the soil sampling detected a lot of artisanal mining activity here that is shown with green triangles. There's a picture here of the mining activity. That is exactly here. So it's you know, it's to quite a scale actually, quite surprising. A lot of gold is extracted by quite a few people from this river, but that's all transported gold. It occurs in the river. It has been eroded from rocks somewhere, and it's not. It hasn't formed where it's found. But then it's interesting to see that the entire catchment of the stream is actually within the permit area. So it's not too far to say that the source of this gold should also be within the permit area. So we're quite hopeful and wishful that when we get the remainder of the soil samples in, that maybe we see some anomalies that will point us towards the source of the alluvial gold. We're leaving Ghana. We are now in Senegal.
Senegal, yeah.
Yep.
Here's our license area in blue. It's 471 square kilometers in size, and it's wholly owned by us. It's not a JV. And we lie in a gold province called the Kaniba Inlier of the Birimian Formation. Now, any geologist loves the word Birimian because it equates to gold to a very large extent in Africa. Where we are is on a structure called the Main Transcurrent Shear Zone, the MTZ, which is responsible for some of the mineralization in this province, notably Massawa, which belongs to Randgold, and where they have about 3 million ounces. Other than the fact that we only own it, the government takes a 10% free carry, but we have a very good tax regime agreement in a convention with the government that allows us some tax benefits that we did not find in any other jurisdiction we went to.
Yeah, I think this is, I don't want to go in too much detail here. That's just a geological map of the permit area that we derived from satellite and geophysical data. But what I really want to talk about is the next slide, please. And, and that's a summary of the work that Goldstone did on the permit this year, early this year. And let's just talk about the sort of background. You can see there's a topographic map in the background with quite a few roads and villages, so there is access to the permit area, which in Africa is a good start. And you also see a lack of samples, no results or very little results in this area, and then you have a lot of points on this area. We took a total of 8,150 samples to cover the entire area, but we have not received the results yet for this area. So within the next couple of weeks, let's say within the next 2 months, at 500 samples per week, we will get the results for the remainder of the permit as well. Now, from the results that we have received so far, what can we see? Well, we can see very clearly that the structure that Jurie talked about already is clearly extending into the permit. We can also see a red cloud. You can see it, I hope, from where you sit. And that red cloud is a slightly higher concentration of silver. Now, you have to know that in this geological environment, silver commonly occurs together with gold. And it's used as a pathfinder element to find gold deposits. And what it really tells us that not only is there a structure, but there is a structure through which fluids, hot fluids, flow. Yeah. And it's really a proof for the mineralization and for the prospectivity of the area, because these elements occur together. Now, if you look where the gold sits, the gold is signified here by red points, by large red points, and it doesn't sit in the structure. You will note it's actually just on the margin of the structure, up there and here where my hand is, and that fits perfectly with the geological model, where we know that gold deposits are actually situated not on major structures but right next to them. And so we're quite excited about these results, and we await the results for the remainder of the permit area, and I think we'll update the market probably in around about 2 months with the final results of this. And then hopefully we'll go back to the permit, not for a while because it's going to be a rainy season, but early next year to follow up these gold areas and hopefully find another Massawa gold deposit.
Gabon. We've got 2 licenses there, Oyem there at the north and Ngutu around the south, which Hendrik and I are particularly excited about. We worked very hard to acquire it, and I think it needs to be appreciated what the speculative appeal of those 2 licenses offer to this company. I don't think it's always appreciated really, and I hope that once we've told you, and Hendrik specifically had given you the geological information, you'll understand what we're talking about here. What's important to know is that 13 million euros were spent by the European Union by using the BRGM, the French Geological Survey, and the South African Geological Survey to do work in Gabon. They covered the prospective Archean rocks, or Birimian rocks, over the country, did some stream sediment sampling, and then narrowed their work down into a soil sampling exercise, geochemical exercise. From that, they identified 11 anomalous zones of gold presence, and we managed to cherry pick literally from those 2, because we're proud to say nimble-footed enough to be there in Gabon at the same time, and also had our applications ready. We were then, at the time when we were there, informed of the information, filed our applications at 7 o'clock in the morning when the embargo lifted on filing applications for these licenses. And now today we believe, we're told, and we're not sure whether it is so, but that Ivanhoe and Anglo has filed applications for licenses around our areas. So we really, from that point of view, are excited about it. Gabon is a very stable country. We can answer questions about that later on. I don't think we've got enough time, but it's a nice place to work in.
I think just before we move to the next slide, just see that there's a blue square there, and we're going to look at maps. That's the Oyem permit, and there's a blue square here. That's the Ngutu permit. Each permit is just over 500 square kilometers in size, and we have already had geologists on the ground there. We know there's reasonable access, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more now on the next slide. We're looking at the Ngutu permit now first, and I think what is important, I actually have to get close to the slide now. This is this data that you see here is the Sysmin data. We purchased it from the government, And this in particular is gold, is a gold anomaly in soil again. And the size of the anomaly from here to there is 15 kilometers in this direction. And then from there to there, you see it's a bit of a cross really. And it's another 10 kilometers from here to there. So it's a massive area that's covered by this anomaly. And then if we move on to the map to the right, you will notice, maybe I think you probably see it better on your printouts in front of you, but all the streams that drain the anomaly are worked by artisanal gold miners. So that means that, and they have been supporting their families from this anomaly for the last 30 or 40 years. There are 3 villages here that are occupied basically or populated by artisanal gold miners. So not only is there a soil anomaly, there's actually a physical gold in the ground that can be found in the streams. Next slide, please. Actually, go back. Go back. What I want to just keep in mind the shape of this anomaly. It's like it's a very unusual star. Actually, if you just keep that shape in mind, you go back. You go to the next slide now. You see a very similar shape appearing here in blue, right? And then we plot the gold anomaly over this picture, and what happens is that the gold anomaly to some extent actually mimics the blue, the underlying blue. Now, what is the blue? We're looking at a magnetic image. We're looking at magnetic properties of the rock, and we see that the rock that's underlying the soil anomaly seems to differ, seems to have a different magnetic signal from the other rocks. And what that really means is that there is a geological structure or rock type that directly underlies the soil anomaly, and that is the reason or the cause for this soil anomaly. And that really lifts the significance of the soil anomaly out to the extent that we know that there is a geology, that it is associated with the geology. So our next step will be to go out there and to auger and then later to drill the rock that is mineralized under the soil anomaly.
You'll notice the same thing with OYM, and that is that there's not. Some people would think that the gold anomaly comes from somewhere, a gold alluvium transported from somewhere. In this case, it's very difficult to believe that because the star shape that you see from the anomaly is replicated there as well. That's my layman's way of understanding it.
Move on from the Ngutu permit to the OYM permit, and I want to start here with the map that's in the middle. Again, 15 kilometers. The distance from here to there is 15 kilometers. It is, again, the Senegal data, a cherry-picked anomaly from the Senegal data. And this is gold values in soil, and you can see there's a very clear trend here of anomalous gold in soil. And if we take this anomaly and put it onto overlay it with a magnetic map, we notice that the strongest part of the anomaly is coincident with a blue area on the magnetics, right? And why is that? Because this blue area here is caused by a fault, a geological fault along which the rocks have moved, have resulted in a magnetic low, and are also the reason for the mineralization, the fault has controlled the mineralization, and we are just above it, and we see the mineralization in the soil sample. So again, a large anomaly with good geological reasons, and we're looking forward to test it in the future.
Yeah, this is photos of our recent reconnaissance into Gabon, more for logistical reasons, not geological. And that's to understand what we need to do to go and work there. Fortunately, there's a logging road that goes through Ngutu, and not far away from OYM there's another one too. So we're fortunate from that point of view that the loggers also are active in the area. Otherwise, we would have had to make the road ourselves. This is artisanal activity at Ngutu. Someone panning a stream there, and other people working a alluvial section there. Yeah, well, this is our summary. I hope that it has sunk in with you guys what we want to portray here today. And we basically have from Gabon very good speculative and promising grassroots projects through to Sangola, where we are strategically placed, through to Manso Menfi that lies in a prolific gold belt, into Homase where we have actual resources and the prospect of increasing that to something meaningful which can be mined. We've got the management team to do that. I think we've also got a good track record, not only with Goldstone but other companies that we've worked with, and we hope to build on what we've achieved.
I just want to elaborate a little bit on the news flow. We have, I think, on each project already given you an idea about news flow, but when we're looking back, news flow was mainly a function of corporate events. Now looking forward, I think news flow will be mainly a function of exploration data coming through. And on a project-by-project basis, let's start with Homase Akrekeri, our, call it the most advanced and probably flagship project. We hope to come out with first drill results in the next 2 or 3 months, and then there will be, we have to obviously wait for something material to build. We will be doing a lot of other testing of grassroots or less developed projects within the permit area, and we will increase our interest from 51% to 65%, which will be another news item. At Sangola, you have seen that we're still waiting for some of the soil geochemistry or termite mound geochemistry to come in. Once it's completed, we'll make a final interpretation of the data. And at Manso Menfi, a very similar story. We're waiting for the final results there, and we'll come up with a press release there as well. So there's going to be quite a continuous flow of news. Yeah.
It pretty much depends on our shareholders, particularly Unity. But we're good at exploring. We're not miners. The best we could do is to mine virtually by getting someone like Unity that mines it in the company, and we get the proceeds from that. But our skills lies in finding these things and building value that way. So, but that's what any exploration company really wants to achieve, is to get to something that they can build on and that they can sell ultimately, or commercialize otherwise. The circumstances will tell what we have to do. It might just be worth it to mine.
Maybe I just want to add there, sorry, that the spirit of the alliance with Unity Mining is such that we explore and they mine. So, I mean, many other things could happen, but that's the spirit of the strategy.
Yeah, we've built up a relationship of trust with them, but we understand why they did that. They clearly did their homework and realized that we are not bound to the DTR disclosure and transparency rules, and that we also are not protected, our shareholders are not protected by the normal provisions that you would find, for instance, in the city code. So they probably did the commercial right thing. Morally speaking, that's for anybody else to judge, not for me. And they have obtained a better interest. If they told us, then knowing us, they would have known that we would have told the market. So they didn't really have a choice not to tell us. So it's unfair of us to think a bit betrayed, but it makes us sometimes look a bit odd to the market that we don't know what's going on with our shareholders. But other than that, there's a very frank and open relationship with Unity, amicable. There's no undercurrents, nothing that should worry anybody. I think they've done the sensible thing from their point of view, and that is to acquire an asset at a time when they didn't want to push up the value of what they're acquiring. They clearly believe that Goldstone has got more to offer right now at the current price, and they've jumped at the opportunity.
Are they an African entity or UK based? Or?
They're Australian, Australian listed. They're listed in Sydney. They're a producer of gold as well.
I cannot comment on the treatment process, but the depth was between 100 and 200 meters in depth underground. And it was a quartz vein that had a thickness of meters. Not many meters, but some meters, let's say 1 or 2 or 3 meters. It was high grade. And the problem with these quartz veins is they are very patchy mineralized. So you have a high-grade pocket there, and then 2 meters further you have got very little. So, but what one has to consider here is that often a high-grade quartz vein is probably quite difficult to exploit for a mining company because it doesn't have the volumes and it's too spotty. But often they sit in an envelope of much wider, lower grade mineralization, and that's something that could be interesting for us there.
Yes, what we've set out to do with Genin is to inquire as much as possible. Talk to Unity about this, and then also just have a general look at our share register, understanding what's going on there. Do spend some money to understand where they have their holdings, and it wouldn't be too difficult to track them down. So we're gonna keep you informed. I think the normal principles of commercial savvy applies here, and that is that, you know, keep on to your shares, buy more. They've got to be bought at some point. I mean, the fact that the disclosure and transparency doesn't apply, it doesn't mean that the shares are suddenly worthless. It does create a lot of uncertainty. I submit, yes, sure, I concede. But it is a situation where the normal business principles still apply. And we're going to just go with the flow and understand a bit more and keep you informed. Unfortunately, it's not at our instance. It's something that we're working at, yes, but we can't really do that actively because we've got so much on our plates as far as exploration is concerned. That's really something that needs to be looked after by, let's call the shareholders, really, because we don't want to be seen to be interfering and getting into the arena.
Maybe if I can add there, Jurie, is that we have got $4.5 million in the bank presently, and if we would go full out on all our projects, which is actually very difficult to achieve in 3 countries, 5 projects in 3 countries, but if we would go full out on all of them, we would have enough money to do exploration for further, just more than a year. So we will have to think about finance. And maybe this will, and no details are available. We don't know how we're going to achieve the finance, but maybe this will be an opportunity for such a cornerstone investor. Who knows? But then, of course, we also have shareholders, major shareholders, that will have something to say about that as well. But I think we'll come back with that.
Yeah, Unity is not averse to participating and allowing someone else to participate into a fundraising later on, as long as they think that they can keep their position. I think they'd be happy. Yeah, we've been doing it since yesterday. Okay. And we've got another, I think we've got another 7 or 8 meetings left, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, the only other rights that they have that you don't have is the warrants. Well, they made it clear to us, and we believe them, that they've played it safe on that side. Whenever we made announcements that were market sensitive, the record shows that they only started buying after that has been disseminated through the market. So no, I don't think that's a problem, no.
Okay, so the history is that between 1999 and 2002, a Australian explorer explored the Homasa permit and found about 500,000 ounces. At the same time, AngloGold Ashanti was already running the Obuasi mine just 15 kilometers to the south and ran into trouble. They couldn't mine enough ore to feed to their own plant. So they then made a deal with the explorer by the name of Shia Gold, acquired the permit from them, and then started trucking the ore to the permit. So why did they stop? They stopped for 2 reasons. At a gold price of then just over $300, the profit margin was probably too low to justify the trucking over long time periods. And B, they solved their operational problems in their own underground mine, and they were able to run the plant at full capacity without trucking in the ore from Homasa.
Do something a bit more valuable in the sense of seeing some real value coming from that. Well, Gabon pretty much depends on the geological orientation that we're going to do now shortly. If it turns out that we could do some further work instead of just doing we might identify drill targets already with some geophysical work. You only really build value in a mining company or exploration company where you drill. There's no other way. So if we hope to achieve some kind of target to drill, but we think that the geological orientation study might take a bit longer because you can't spend this money willy-nilly. You need to make sure that you're going to spend it at the right spot. And to answer your question, it's probably going to take about a year or so before we get Gabon, get some results. Very much similarly to Angola is very much the same. I know, Hendrik.
I think, if you look at it from a value curve, there's several events in a typical exploration project that create value. And I think in Gabon, the first one has already happened. We have a beautiful soil anomaly at the surface, and we have a geological model. Now, the next step is, and I think I could, if all go, I'm just being positive now. I have to be positive as an exploration geologist. So if all goes well, we could make a discovery in Gabon next year. We could drill some amazing boreholes, and that could happen in 2012. And then that would obviously create value. And then we would go into the work of exploring around the discovery, and we'll start building a resource, actually quantifying the gold that's in the ground. And as you build the resource, you build more value. And that would take at least another 2 years. And then at the end, once you have your resource, you want to see if it's economically feasible, so you do a pre-feasibility or feasibility study. And if that's positive, that's your third event. And that would be probably at least 5 years into the future. But building up to it, there are a lot of points that are very attractive to a shareholder already.
And many of you would probably not be involved anymore at the time when it's a mine. Typically, that's what happens. So because you would have had the kick in the upside already when the discovery is made, when you get a share price that's far more than we've got now. Yes, unfortunately we are.
It's dry season now.
Especially in dry season now, that's why we're working there. In Senegal, it's wet season now, and they literally take the bridges away. Not the water, people take the bridges away because they don't want it to be flushed down the rivers. So
imagine the bridges.
Well, that's not a problem at all. It's actually part of a little river that runs through there. It's not that big, and you just open the river and it runs through.
I think our approach right now is that we're not actively searching, but if something ends up on my desk and it's looking outstandingly prospective, I'm not going to push it off the desk.
But knee-jerk reactions to take
it. But we have a lot of in our hands now, and we at full capacity. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.